Hello guys, this is the video I made for English speaking freaks from our ERSGR modification group on Facebook, just to share some knowledge and show a bit of work I did by the rust proofing of this spectacular car. I want to show you guys more than you saw on the published photos and maybe explain some things that are easier to film than to photograph, and finally say a few words about how the premium rust proofing looks like nowadays when we have the full access to all the technology reserved before only for automotive industry. So as you see, we have here a 2021 Toyota GR Yaris in a 089 white pearl with a additional sports package including Torsen LSDs, stiffer front sway bar and a set of forged BBS alloys. This car came to me as a brand new one with 14 kilometers on a odometer, and the owner wanted to prevent it from rusting in our specific climate conditions down here. So the main goal was to make this car road salt resistant, but in the meantime the simple task has evaluated to a more serious project. You can see here there's no thousands of horsepower, no tons of boost, but maybe it's the one that will survive. Now I can show you the final effect of more than 280 working hours I spent together with a small Bandit. This is a perfect moment before I'll install all the shields and covers and all that plastic stuff hiding the work that has been done. What I did here is the full rust proofing. First of all was the total demolition of the car, what means tearing down the underbody, dismantling the whole suspension and drivetrain and exhaust system. Then all the suspension and drivetrain parts were hand tarnished, degreased, then epoxy primed, and finally painted with a polyurethane paint, which is used mainly in the marine industry. Some of the parts, mostly the aluminum ones, they were just treated with a thin coat of silver spray paint just to prevent oxidation and allow proper cooling or the rear differential. All the rubber parts and uniballs, they were just masked with a tape to save them from being painted, and the effect you can see here. After that there was a lot of time spent on preparing the underbody panels, what means also hand tarnishing, seam smoothing, degreasing, masking holes, lugs and threads to have them assembly ready after applying protection coat. But first of all there was an anti-corrosive epoxy primer applied, then the main anti-gravel coat, which was the Innotec Spray Seal LS, and after that a thin polyurethane layer with the base white color to close all the porosity of Innotec layer and to make a proper white ground for the pearl coat. The last two layers were first the pearl coat, and on the top of that the final clear coat to make it glossy and sleek, what helps you to maintain it in the meaning of washing during the winter time or after a gravel track session. As it comes to the cavities, So all the cavities were filled with Innotec HT Wax Transparent, while the subframes front and rear with the same product but in a black color. As for the exhaust system, it was additionally TIG welded here on a rear muffler, this plate. Then all of this was sandblasted, especially the welding seams, which were already with fly rust, and finally after sandblasting coated with Rust-Oleum hardhat heat resistant paint. I didn't want to dismantle the whole drivetrain, it means the engine and gearbox, so I decided to coat it with an ultra thin layer of HT wax, just to prevent oxidation, as the wax is easy washable with solvents, so in case of any major engine work it will be easier to wash it and to have factory clean parts. It will be easier than scrape all the oxides or rust out of them. So it looks like a bit matte finish. This is already dry wax. This is really a ultra thin layer, so we don't see it exactly, but you can trust me, it's here. Last but not least, all the threads, all the screws, all the nuts, all the washers, everything was greased with Innotec ceramic grease to prevent rusting, to allow problem-free maintenance after years, and for smooth geometry alignment when needed. All the small fastening screws and washers from heat shields and from wiring harness, and all the tubes like brake lines and fuel lines, they were replaced with the stainless ones. You can see it here. This is stainless. All the small screws like ABS sensors, like handbrake cables, all the small screws were replaced with a stainless. This prevent also rusting and looks fancy. As meant before, the engine and drivetrain stayed stock, but the suspension received Eibach lowering springs, an Eibach wheel spacer on all four wheels, and the underbody received also a custom skid plate made of aluminum. This is how it looks. That's the shield going from under the front bumper, under the whole engine and subframe up to the GPF, replacing the original one, which was probably made of some kind of pressed old pullover. Additionally, the intercooler was shielded with a race style mesh. It's a 16 by 8 millimeters mesh made of aluminum. This should save a bit the fins from flying gravel. I added also a bit of sound damping mats for the rear part of cabin and doors and a back door, as we went more in Gran Turismo way than Ultimate Racing Monster way. This will be a daily driver of my client, so minimum comfort and a bit of safety on unpaved roads. This was really needed and more important than a few kilos of weight savings. So that's the way it looks now. Thanks for watching. If you want to contact me regarding technology or have any other questions, you'll find my email and Facebook link in the info section of YouTube. And here's the direct link to my workshop site, where you'll find all the address data and how to contact me in person. Thanks again and take care.